Today, on Perpetual Projects, we are going to polish up the new used aluminum wheels we have for extra parts our race truck. So these are the rear wheels we got at the swap meet, and they're in really good shape. There's no real scratches, and these could probably be polished up with just some polishing compound, but they're not gonna be like a show finish doing that. And our front wheels that we have are not in nearly as good a shape. They're pretty pitted and pretty rough, and they've had all of the bolt holes used. So the real reason we're gonna do this is to get these looking as good as each other so that they match. We're gonna start by sanding with 400 grit on our random orbital sander. If your wheels are pretty rough, you could actually start out with the more aggressive grit than that, but these are in pretty good shape. So we're just gonna start with 400, and I actually wish I had some 800 or 1000 for this, but I don't, so that step we're probably gonna have to do by hand. You're just trying to, with the sandpaper, you're really just trying to get any scratches or pitting out of them. And these, like I said, didn't have very much. One thing to note, that if your wheels are clear coated, this won't work. I mean, it will, but you have to get all the clear off, because you can't polish clear to a mirror finish like you can aluminum. If you take some aluminum polish and just rub a little spot, if it comes out black and it starts to get really shiny, chances are you have aluminum wheels, not clear coated wheels, because the polish won't turn your cloth black with the clear like it will with the aluminum. Okay, now that we have our wheel all sanded, we're going to start the process of polishing, and we're gonna do this in multiple steps. And we bought this kit on Amazon. I've used the Zephyr products quite a bit when we were doing semi wheels, and they seem to work really well. So we're gonna start with, they call this the quick cut, and it's kind of your coarsest cutting pad. And one thing to note is when you put these on, you have to have these safety flanges, or the center will just break out of that buffer because it's not strong enough to hold it. So you use these, you put those on there like that, and that holds it out here on this edge so that it doesn't just break out the center. We'll throw a link in the description for this stuff if you're interested. Also note, these are directional, so make sure it's turning the right direction when you put it on your buffer. Okay, so this is our primary cutting compound for aluminum. This is just the roughest one. So then once you get everything all set, support your buffer so that it's not gonna scratch your wheel, and turn it on, and then you're just gonna touch this to the wheel. It just kind of gets in the edges there. I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this, but the outside here, this is all pretty good. It's nice and shiny. There's no fogginess or cloudiness. Down here in the base of the wheel, I still have a little bit of cloudiness that I need to work out of it. Once you get all that cloudiness out, that's when it's time to move on to the next step. So in our kit, the next step is the green and violet pad, which is called the smooth cut pad. And then we're gonna go on to our very fine coloring rouge, the green rouge, with this pad, and just go until it's nice and even again and uniform, and it's gonna get shinier as you go along. It also gets easier because these pads get softer and more flexible and doesn't try to jerk the grinder out of your hand. So by the end of the second step, it should be pretty shiny. I mean, this could actually maybe use just a little bit more, and I'll probably do just a little bit more down here. This part of the wheel is the hardest because it has the holes and it tries to grab the buffer and rip it out of your hands. But it's coming along really well. I mean, if you think about it, this is what we started with. That's a huge difference. Now, it's time to move on to the flannel domit flannel. I don't know what that means. And your polishing compound, final finish coloring for aluminum and stainless steel. So we'll get this changed out and give it a once over with this and see how it looks after this step. When you're putting this stuff on, make sure whatever it's pointing at doesn't mind if it gets hot melted rouge all over it, because it throws it everywhere. Amber just asked a good question about how you know how often to put this stuff on. I just kind of put it on when it looks like it quits working. Like you'll see it, it'll quit cutting and quit making it shinier. That is shiny. It could be a little bit better if you spent a little more time down here on these edges. I'm really happy with how the result is. I'm ecstatic. It looks so much better than it did when we started. Last step, metal polish. We're gonna start out with this cool little cone thing that they sent us to get down in all these spots where we can't get the buffer wheel in there. And then we're gonna go back and polish the whole thing with a terry cloth rag. And just, it's kind of like, I think it's actually some type of protectant, but I might be wrong. It might just be polish. But then this is what you do to maintain your wheels staying shiny. So when you put this stuff on, you're just trying to get it kind of, what's the word? Not really coated, because you're kind of also agitating it. It's got a mild, very, very mild like grittiness to it. It says to apply it until it turns black, but I don't think you're gonna ever get this wheel. It's so clean, I don't think it'll turn black because of all the polishing steps we've done so far. So we're just gonna kind of wing it here and put it on here until it looks like it's nice and coated and even and polished. And then we're gonna let it dry and then we'll buff it off. There it is. It is super, super shiny. I am really, really happy with how this turned out. If you have more intricate wheels, or actually even maybe for this wheel would have been easier, they sell those buffer pads in different sizes, and the smaller one might have made this a lot easier. And I mean, we started over once already. So if you get to the step and get to the end and you're like, wow, that really doesn't look that good, which we did, go back to the beginning and spend a little more time on each step, and you'll start to see and get a feel for what is the finishing of that step. This wheel could use a little bit more polishing. I'm not trying to show you the best polished wheel. I'm just trying to show you that with a little practice and a little bit of time, you too can polish your wheel. And I mean, look, we didn't even hardly use, we did this wheel, we haven't even hardly started using up our bar here. So we could do a lot of wheels with this kit. I hope you've enjoyed and maybe you learned something. If you are a rather do it myself and get satisfactory results and pay somebody else to do it, subscribe, because that's what we're all about on this channel. Saving money, doing things with the stuff that we have, and not spending money on every part of a project, because it's not really your project at that point. It's somebody else's. You just paid for it to be done. See you soon.